is Friday. It is the 30th of May. You're watching Arirang, Korea's only global network. Live from Seoul, I'm Moon Gun-young. So why the sudden turn of events? What would this new agreement mean for the South Korea-US-Japan strategic alliance, and what should be Seoul's stance in all of this? Let's get some assessment. For that, Robert E. Kelly joins us live via Skype. Dr. Kelly is a professor of political science at Busan National University. Robert Kelly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, this is definitely an interesting turn of events. How did this come about when the relationship between these two countries has been so strained?
Sure. Well, North Korea abducted these people, 30 years ago in the 70s and 80s, and it's been a really big thorn in the side of the Japanese government for a very long time. Japanese civil society has mobilized around this issue. There have been protests, there are family association meetings. I mean, this is a very, very emotional, powerful sort of electrical issue in Japan. There's really nothing like this in Korea. I mean, perhaps you could sort of make an analogy to the comfort women in the same way that it really activates people. And for the Japanese, this is something that really needs to be resolved, right? That's why I'm actually not as concerned about this so much as I think many other people, because if the Japanese can get beyond this, I think they'll actually be able to work much more closely with Korea and the United States on North Korea, because this is so divisive in Japan.
Robert Kelly, this also comes at a time of friction between South and North Korea. Now, in your view, how is this deal going to go down in Seoul?
I imagine that the South Koreans will not want it very much. To the extent that the Japanese are cutting a side deal with the North Koreans, as the Americans today said, it does kind of undercut the united front. I'm not actually that concerned about it, because it's not really clear that the Japanese are going to do very much, because we don't know yet if the North Koreans are going to cooperate. I mean, the North Koreans have not really cooperated on this issue in the past. The Japanese have been talking to North Korea about it for 30 years. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Like I said, I do think it's a very emotional issue. The Japanese do need to get on top of this. This does need to be resolved. So I think we should sort of wait and see just how much the Japanese are going to give on this. If the North Koreans come back with nothing in, say, 6 months from this investigation, then the Japanese won't really change. So I don't think it's a good idea to preempt the Japanese yet and say, they're making a major concession. That's not clear yet.
Well, will this in any way impact the Seoul-Washington-Tokyo strategic alliance? I mean, just tomorrow, there will be a defense chiefs meeting between all those countries involved down in Singapore. What do you expect the three to talk about then?
There will be tension, yeah. Again, I think the general principle with the Americans and the South Koreans has been sort of let the South Koreans take the lead. Try to let South Korea deal primarily with North Korea because it's a Korean state, and so Japan and the United States would sort of broadly support whatever the South Korean policy has been. I mean, that's the general concern. But like I said, this is such an emotional issue for the Japanese that I have the feeling that the Americans and the South Koreans are going to give the Japanese a little bit of space, because this is ultimately something that some Japanese government has to resolve soon. These people are aging. They may still be alive. They may be dying soon. I mean, this is something where there's a time limit. There's a clock. And so my guess is the South Koreans and the Americans will say at the meeting, where are you going with this? How far are you going to go with this? Just how much you're going to release the sanctions? And the Japanese will probably say, we don't know yet, because the North Koreans haven't really given us much. So again, my sense right now is caution, sort of let the Japanese sort of feel their way through this, see if the North Koreans actually come clean, which I really doubt, to be honest. And then maybe in 6 months, if the Japanese are going to make a major concession on humanitarian aid, then we can have a much more robust trilateral dialogue.
All right, Robert E. Kelly, professor at Busan National University, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.